Movies are dead. All right, well, everybody, thank you for joining us for another episode of Movies Are Dead, episode 2. This week we will be talking about
Mikey and Nicky.
Mikey and Nicky. We are your hosts, Nick.
Boris.
Boricua.
Boris.
All right, cool. All right, so yeah, this week we're talking about Mikey and Nicky, directed by
Elaine May.
Elaine May. Yeah, starring John Cassavetes and Peter Falk. So,
What did I think?
what'd you think?
This
Come
is a
on.
masterpiece.
It is a
perfect
masterpiece.
movie. I saw the remastered version. Sorry, I mean. Anyway, I just love this movie. Yeah, it doesn't matter, but I love this movie. I think it's you can't really classify it as a thriller or a drama or a comedy. I think it's a very what Elaine May tried to do with this movie is that it's trying to be very reflective of what life is actually like.
No, I agree.
It can feed into comedy, it can feed into drama,
Yeah.
and they can't really be defined as one thing.
No, yeah, for sure. I agree. So if you guys have not seen Mikey and Nicky, it can be found currently at the moment on Criterion Channel and Amazon Prime and Canopy, if you have that account as well. But yeah, I agree with what you said. It has so many it's like so many genres in one, right? So it's like thriller, comedy, even I would even say like a buddy journey movie. Almost has like a buddy cop feel to it.
It's like the first Judd Apatow movie. If you really think about it.
I guess so, yeah.
You know, it's a couple of guys that haven't grown up yet, they're middle aged, they're horny. They fight, they break up, at the end they get together again.
They get together again. It is, yeah. Wow, I didn't even think of that when watching it, but
I couldn't stop thinking Elaine May is such a bro to make this movie.
it is a very masculine movie from, it's weird, I didn't really think about that, but her being a woman, like the way she views like male relationships and the dynamics, it's pretty spot on. It feels real, like the relationship between them.
What's the matter? Is my face dirty?
You were sitting in that bar for 45 minutes. You never once thought about calling your wife. Never once thought about calling her Annie. All of a sudden, you got to call Annie.
I got a terrific suggestion for you, Nick. I suggest you find somebody you can trust.
I don't know, I couldn't help but think this was after Mean Streets, I assume, right?
Yeah, it's 3 years after. It was actually shot the same year, but because Elaine May had all these problems with the studio.
Oh,
They come out 3 years later.
Oh, wow. Yeah, so, I mean, the two leads in it, Cassavetes and Falk, are just insanely good. Like, I think that's, like, for the time, that's, like, quintessential New York acting, right?
Definitely.
Especially Cassavetes, the way he's, like, as the title character, Nicky, he's just insane. Like, that opening shot of him in the hotel room, like, buried deep in, like, fear and like paranoia, and he's like just scanning the newspaper, and it says like local bookie dead or something like that. And you could really feel it, like he's in the room, shades are drawn, lights are off, he has a pistol, right? I wanted this movie to be one thing, and then it turns into another thing.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it.
What did you think it was going to be at first?
Oh, just like it says in the title description, like a nocturnal odyssey.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a nocturnal odyssey, but somewhere between the hours of like 1 and 4 a.m. during the movie, it turns into this like loving, beautiful relationship movie.
Yeah.
Between the two characters. Peter Falk's character, he was my favorite, I would say.
Peter Falk is always great.
So, like, Peter Falk, okay, where's he from? What else?
I would say New York. Seems like that. East
Right,
Coast
I know he's
face.
from there, but, like, what else is he in?
Oh, so much. I mean, Columbo is his
That's
trademark.
Right. Okay, so, yes. So that's where I recognized him from.
Mm-hmm.
So, I recognized the DVD, like, there's a DVD box set I've seen.
Yeah.
With, like, I was like, is this the same dude from Columbo?
Sure is.
And I was like, that's his face.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about Peter Falk's face for a second.
That's what I want to talk about, by the way. This was a big thing of mine that I thought of while watching the movie, is that too many actors they just think, oh, I'm sort of pretty. I should act.
Yeah.
And I say, what the fuck, man? That's stupid. You're just sort of slightly attractive, so you think you can be an actor?
Oh man.
Maybe you'll wind up on
I
the
can-
CW or
I can
something.
picture the faces in your brain as you say this right now. I know who you're talking about and who you're talking to.
Do you?
I don't have a
What do you think
general
I'm picturing?
Think what?
What do you think I'm picturing?
I'm not gonna name names here.
I don't think it's really anything anybody I know. I think it's just a general thing where someone thinks, oh, I'm attractive, I should be an
Therefore,
actor.
I should. Yeah.
But if you don't feel the actual calling to being an actor, you're just going to be in it for the fame and wind up being mediocre your entire career, even if you're successful.
There's a lot of people like that.
Definitely. I mean, you're from LA. I've been to LA. And you can just...
I'm picturing so many faces
Yeah.
I have seen in acting classes.
Just
that
like
I've taken.
making protein shakes,
Oh,
going
God,
to the gym,
stop.
living in tech dog houses.
Yes.
And just, it's gross. I mean, you just don't need to do it just because you're sort of
You
attractive.
don't. And like Peter Falk's the opposite of that.
Yeah.
You look at his face and you're like, if you look at it spot on, straight ahead, you're probably like, oh my God, is he okay? How did he get this face?
Yeah.
Immediately I was thinking like, how did he get this face? Who did he fight to earn these
Right.
like stripes
Has
of
history.
like history
Yeah.
of his face? So if you look at it, it's like it's literally two sides. It feels like they cut someone in half, cut two people in half, and put two faces together. I don't know how to describe it.
That's a good description.
One half, like, it looks like a bulldog, like, ready to pounce and eat you, and the other is, like, this loving, genuine, beautiful, I don't know, like, loving person.
Yeah, I mean, give me a Peter Falk over any actor who's been acclaimed and gotten Oscars over the past 20 years.
Yeah.
And John Cassavetes, too, I mean, he's not necessarily unattractive, he just looks like a regular guy.
He looks like an insurance, like, salesman or something. I don't know how to describe it.
Yeah, he just looks like a dad.
He looks like a dad.
Yeah.
No, he does. And both of them, the way they play off each other, especially in that opening scene where he has to shave. He's like, "What are you doing? You're in here with the shades drawn." He's like, "Shave. Look at your face. You're all hairy." And
Yeah.
the way Peter Falk talks.
It's just these actors always let themselves be unglamorous and real.
Yeah.
And you can tell that their agents in, like, trying to negotiate them always being lit on the right side with, like, perfect makeup and costuming. And
Yeah.
it's like, I admire that much more than anything we're getting now for the most part.
No, yeah, you're right.
Peter Falk, also Ned Beatty.
Ned Beatty with a lot
One
of
of those
hair.
guys.
With a lot of hair.
Yeah.
You see that do he had in the movie. I really liked his hairdo. And yeah, this is after Deliverance, I think, right?
Yes, a couple of years
A
after.
couple years after.
This is the same year he did Network, I think.
Okay.
After he did Network.
Yeah. So yeah, Ned Beatty as the assassin. There's also going to be spoilers in this. So Ned Beatty as the assassin, he was like this like. At first, he comes off as this like cunning, sort of silent but deadly killer, and then somewhere in the third act, he becomes very like. Almost once his boss is revealed, he becomes sort of like, oh, he's just a hitman, and he's kind of like not that smart. You know?
Yeah, he's also just very funny. He's probably the funniest guy.
So, yeah, there's a weird dry humor to him.
He can't find anywhere to park. He's worried about if he's actually gonna make any money after expenses.
And they're like, "Did you go inside the theater?" And he's like, "What?" They're like, they could have gone in the theater. And he's like, "I really don't think they're gonna have a shootout in the theater." Like,
Yeah.
right?
I mean, just funny. Just the whole interplay of these guys, just like it's very life or death, but at the same time, it's very comical. There's a lot of humor here.
There is a lot of humor.
It's dark, very dark, even like literally very dark. But it's at the same time it's funny because our whole civilization, society is absurd in a way it can't help but be funny.
Yeah, especially like that bus scene.
Yeah, I love that
The
scene.
bus driver. He's like, you guys can't exit through the front doors. And Cassavetes like, what do you mean? Just let us out.
You're not gonna let this guy on? There's like
Yeah.
an old guy outside
Yeah,
waiting out
he's
there.
like, you're not gonna let these two guys waiting outside on, and the bus driver's like, I'm gonna let them on, but you can't go throughout the front doors. He's like, that doesn't make sense, right? Pretty much, it
Gets him in a headlock, eventually.
he gets the bus driver in a headlock, and during that scene, there's a ton of ADR. It's probably when they were filming it. It sounds like there was ADR in it, and because when they were filming it, you could hear like the audio cutting in and out, and you could hear like the wrestling of the bus driver and like him struggling to breathe, and I just like that exchange though, and like John Cassavetes in that scene is just like insane. Like he really lets out. Like even leading up to it, he's like, "I'm gonna smoke a cigarette on the bus," and that old lady's like, "You can't smoke cigarettes on this bus." And then Peter Falk's like, he gives him the cigarette, almost knowing that Cassavetes is gonna do what he's gonna want to do.
Yeah, you can't stop him.
Yeah. So I like that. I like how he just sort of had Cassavetes had that like, you know, I'm gonna do what I want to do. He kind of knows that he's done.
Yeah,
you know?
Definitely.
It's sort of like his last hours to be alive. So let him smoke this cigarette. Let him say "F you" to this lady, right? And another thing I noticed, since we're talking about faces, is the faces of the people back then.
Yeah, much different.
They just looked like terrible people.
Yeah.
Right?
They led hard lives.
Right? So I was doing the math on some of these characters. I'm like, okay, if they're like 40, that means they're like born in the 30s or in the Depression era. So, like, these people like saw like World War II. You know, they saw when New York was just.
It feels like we'll look like them eventually. Like in 20 years, we're gonna have those kinds of faces.
Like Peter Falk.
Yeah.
I have a Peter Falk face, like looking up at nothing. Just
Yeah. It's like lost, got like random wrinkles and creases in your. Yeah, I mean, we've been through hard times, haven't we?
I like when Peter Falk is just like staring into like nothing, and it's just like his eyes are drifting.
Well, his character is very conflicted.
Yeah,
I would say.
No, he is. Yeah, he is. I liked his character, and it kind of like, spoiler alert, it kind of like broke my heart when he find out he's working with the dudes, you know, to take down Mickey, and it almost makes sense, but you don't want to believe it almost. I don't know how to
Well, I
describe
think his reasoning, I don't know if he has reasoning, they used to be best friends from back in the day since they were kids. They've known each other for years. Mm-hmm. But he feels like John Cassavetes' character
moved on.
Yeah, he just like...
Yeah, he made that waiter
turned
remark.
his back on him.
Remember that waiter remark he
Yeah.
said? He goes, "Hey, call the waiter back here." And that was directed to Peter Falk, who saw him at a restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
That's me.
It is me.
And when he brings it up, when Peter Falk brings it up after the scuffle in the middle of the street, Cassavetes, I didn't mean it. It was a joke. It was a joke. It was a joke, right? I was trying to impress the boss,
mm-hmm.
right? This and that. And Peter Falk's like, no, that hurt.
Yeah. And it did, and that's part of the reason why he's helping the bosses take care of him, you know?
It's so sad. I don't know.
Yeah.
Just the way the relationship works between those two. And you know, you can tell, like, Peter Falk loves John Cassavetes in the movie, and he even brings up, like when your mom... whose mom died? Was it Cassavetes' mom died? He spent the week with him. Right?
Wasn't that his brother?
It was his brother?
Yeah, his little brother.
When his little brother died, yeah. He spent the week with him. You could like recall.
Oh yeah, his mom too, though.
Mom
they go to
too.
the cemetery, yeah.
Peter Falk's like apologizing to the tombstones. I'm stepping over this, stepping over that. Cassavetes is just trudging along, going like, "Where's he buried? Where's Mom buried? Where's my mom buried?"
Yeah, it seems like John Cassavetes gets the absurdity of his situation, that he's gonna be killed in a matter of hours.
Yeah.
And he's facing this absurdity we all face eventually when we know we're about to die. Is that soon you're here, and then you're dead.
Hey, Mike, you know what? Now that I'm here, I don't know what to do.
Don't do that.
My mom doesn't mind me laughing, do you, Mom?
Stop it, Nick.
Let's talk about the bar scene.
Yeah.
First bar.
So I also want to talk
Clock.
about, you notice that these two men react with violence at the slightest inconvenience, or not even slightest inconvenience, but they just go up against society's made-up rules.
For no coffees, just fill up a carton of cream.
Can't do that. I wouldn't know what to charge you. Cream is for the coffee only. It's not for sale.
Charge me for 15 coffees and give me the cream.
15 coffees?
That's right.
kill you.
Okay, sir.
Because I'm crazy.
Okay.
Now give it to me.
Yes, sir. Okay.
Just give it to me.
Okay.
And the second bar scene after
One of my
that.
favorites. That's another one of my favorites.
Yeah.
Oh man, that was awesome.
What'd you like about that scene?
I like that there's a phone booth in the bar.
Yeah, that's how it used to be.
old, yeah, that's how old it was. And Peter Falk is talking to his wife. He's all like, tells the kid to go to bed, write this down, and then the wife is like telling the kid, give me a Crayola. I gotta write this down. And meanwhile, while that's happening, Cassavetes is talking to a young woman who happens to be African American, and they also happen to be in an African American bar. But Peter Falk and Cassavetes are white men, Italians, I assume, and you can already sense that they're not supposed to be there. They do not belong there at all. And Elaine May does a great job of doing like the cutaways to the characters staring at Cassavetes and Falk. And it's a real like sign of the times of how things used to be. And I know like there's still sections in certain cities where it's all segregated and everything, but you can really feel like the segregation between the characters and how much of an outcast they are. And Cassavetes gets them in hot water when he strikes up a conversation with a young lady. You know, and he tries to buy her a beer. Her boyfriend or husband comes along, and he comes up to Cassavetes and he's like, yo man, it's my old lady. And Cassavetes is like, yo, she's not old. And I'm just like, what? Oh no, what are you doing? But then every time he steps into dog shit, I'm always surprised that he stepped into dog shit when I know he's going to step into dog shit regardless. It's kind of weird. I'm almost expecting, I expect him to create a disastrous situation, but deep down inside, I don't want him to.
Yeah.
You know, I want him to sort of break away and actually get away. But like in the scene at the bar, Peter Falk breaks it up between, you know, Cassavetes and like the bar people, you know, like the attendees and the patrons. And you can just feel the tension, how much like they almost died.
Yeah.
You know, because of Cassavetes. And I think that's when Peter Falk kind of realizes like, oh, this guy's he's a little crazy, you know?
Yeah, well, I think the whole movie, and I don't know, there's no real arcs here in this movie. Sorry.
No, there's not.
Sorry, screenwriting gurus.
Oh God, you wrote it.
I'm kidding. Sort of. But the whole thing is it's the end point of their two lives building up in frustration and anxiety and stress and suffering, and builds up to this point where it just culminates.
Yeah, it kind of reaches a point where it's like a boiling point, and it's almost like this is the final night of their antics, especially for Cassavetes, who, by the way, I think if they were to have made the Joker in the early 80s or late 70s, he would have been an amazing Joker. Cassavetes, he has that face, he has the laugh, he has the craziness to him.
That would be funny, wouldn't it, some guy? He was in a bar as an office.
Beyond that, I mean, just the last scene is just heartbreaking. In the way that it's just a tragedy, almost. It's just like you feel, you sort of want, you desire that these two characters can sort of make up and be friends again, but there's no way of that happening. There's no way they can go back to the way it was before.
No, you can't. Especially that last scene where Cassavetes is banging on the door, and Peter Falk's like, you know, pretty much pushes a sofa or a mini chair against the door. Him and his wife, Peter Falk and his wife.
Yeah.
In the movie, they put like a chair against the door that way Cassavetes can't break through it, and he's just banging on the door. He's like,
I'm sick.
He's like, I'm sick, Mikey, and then like you just see the car coming, and it's Ned Beatty on the way. Porky the Pig himself, and he looks like him. I'm like, oh my God, here he is. And he just rolls up. And then the way it's shot, the way they do the shot from within the car, showing out to Cassavetes is amazing. and they do like the cut to Ned Beatty like aiming the weapon, you know.
Another funny bit from that scene is that Ned Beatty's car can't park his car anywhere because of the HOA.
I forgot
so he
about
has to,
that.
like, drive around in circles.
Dude, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
How Peter Falk tells the big boss, I forgot his name,
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
You know, he's like, it's an exclusive neighbor. It's an exclusive neighborhood.
When you can't park your car,
You don't get it. We had an interview for this house.
Yeah.
And he's trying to explain it to the big boss that way Ned Beatty doesn't go. And it's almost at that point, it's not even about Nicky. It's about Peter Falk's life being upended by a revolving car going around the neighborhood.
Yeah.
You know?
Please, let me a doctor. Mikey! Mikey! Mikey, I'm sick!
I don't know, like, yeah, I could see, like, Bottle Rocket in there. And, of course, like, After Hours and Good Time, you know, and
Yeah.
those type of movies. But this one's more grounded in humor, though. And it's like, I think the movie's so dark, literally and figuratively, that you kind of forget the humorous parts, you know, like especially the watch scene, like when Cassavetes throws the watch and they have the brawl in the street, and I think Peter Falk like slips too.
Yeah, he does.
And he like tries to punch when he slips. I want to know if that's improv, because it felt like they were just like, go fight, and they're actually fighting, you know, and the way he slips and falls and.
Oh, behind the scenes factoid about this movie is that Elaine May shot 1.5 million feet of film.
Jeez.
Yeah, and that's a big part of why they went over budget and over schedule.
Yeah.
They would just keep shooting just to get those organic, natural reactions out of Peter Falk and Cassavetes.
Yeah, I would like to see like the outtakes and like
Yeah.
stuff that they had to cut out, because it just feels like they could have done like a trilogy of these movies. They could have done like a prequel of these two characters, because that's how good they are. And another character I want to go back to is Carol Grace. That scene. Ooh, let's talk about that scene when Cassavetes like forces himself onto her on her couch.
Yeah.
Right.
Forces, in a way, he's trying to sort of emasculate Peter Falk by making
Yeah,
him watch and
making
stay
him
in the
watch.
same
It's such
room.
a weird scene,
It
because
is.
like the way it's framed is like, you know, you have the white shot, the master, and then you have the couch, Cassavetes, and in the back, you have Peter Falk, who's like dimly lit. The rest of the scene is dark. There's like a little light, you know, lighting Cassavetes and Carol Grace. And just the way that scene is shot, though, it's very disturbing.
Yeah, Peter Falk has to eventually find his way back into the kitchen, and you have him like in a perfect rectangular frame.
Yeah.
While you'll just hear Cassavetes and his
Yeah.
girlfriend sort of like have sex over there.
Yeah.
And it's not even like, it's not like anything to do with making love, you know, it's just very transactionary.
Yeah, the way it's framed, the perfect square. There's another shot where it's a perfect square, and it's during the last scene between Peter Falk and his wife, and it's almost like a painting, you know.
Yeah.
And there's lots of blues and purples, but the way that everything's framed in that scene between Cassavetes and Carol Grace is so like haunting, and she has to hear those words before he attempts to make love to her, and she's like, "Tell me you love me, Nicky. Tell me you love me." And I was just like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah.
Oh
And
my
like
God.
she tries to tell him, she tries to talk about the news and like what book she's reading.
Indochina?
Yeah, Indochina.
Concerned about Indochina?
But Cassavetes doesn't care.
He
He
doesn't
doesn't
care.
care. Look.
He's a selfish, like, he's so evil. And the codependent relationship between, like, Peter Falk and Cassavetes, it's almost like like brothers, you know? Like, I grew up
Definitely,
like
yeah.
I grew up with brothers, and it's just like, if they're crazy, you have to put up with their stuff for an amount of time until you explode, of course. But we'll save that for later. All right, buddy? No, but the codependent relationship between them and how it drags out throughout this movie, especially in that sex scene, how sad it is, you know, and then after they get done making love, right? It's almost like watching, like, I had to actually step away from I had to do something else for a second.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie, because I felt that uncomfortable. Those scenes always make me squirm when somebody's like being like just doing something against their will, like having sex, like irreversible. Oh, geez. You know,
yeah.
It's, I can't.
It's hard.
It's very tough, you know.
Though it gets worse though, because then Cassavetes tries to convince
Oh,
Falk that
I
he can
know.
also get with his girlfriend.
It's so weird.
I just want a little kiss.
Mikey, please. Mikey, please.
Every time I see someone getting slapped, specifically a lady, in a movie from back then, there's just so many slap scenes from back then. Like, if you ever watch like old noir movies or old drama movies, the way they would settle the argument is like the guy would just whack them, you know. And it's so sad, that scene.
Yeah, and we like to think that we live in a less misogynistic world, but I don't think it's any different now. Do you think?
Unless
Because people don't want to show it anymore.
we have cameras and social media, so we're
I mean, yeah, in a way, but what I'm saying is like in mainstream film, we're less.
we don't see that anymore.
Yeah, I don't think it's because there's less domestic
No,
violence.
no, it's just
against
because
women. I think
people are more, I guess, aware and they don't want to see it. They
Yeah,
know it's
sure,
true,
they
but they don't
wanna
want to see it.
Yeah, but I think it's sort of dishonest in a way.
No, I agree. I think you should show people hitting each other in a relationship because these things happen. And if people see it, they go, "Oh man, that's I don't want to be involved in something like that," you know.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of mainstream action movies are more violent towards women, but it's in a way that's bloodless and emotionless.
Specifically, like violence now in movies has changed too.
Yeah.
Like there was so
It's a
much
bit
gun
sanitized.
violence, and you know, like I don't know. Nowadays with violence, it's like you hit somebody in the head 3 times, their head explodes on the floor. You know what I mean? There's this relentless punching
yeah.
and like, you know, and like Good Time was kind of like that, like the opening scene where he's in Rikers and, but yeah, like Peter Falk, the way he winds up and just slaps her and like it's so sad and like she starts to cry and she's like, "Get out of my house." And what is she, like a nurse, right?
Mhm.
It's so sad because
It's only tangentially connected to their world.
right? Yeah. It's so sad because, like, you find out then that she's being, like, passed around. And, like, Cassavetes feels betrayed by this for some reason.
Yeah, no, he's just doing that because he knows how to control her.
Yeah.
He knows how to talk to her in
Yeah.
order to get what he
He's,
wants.
like, manipulating her.
Yeah, he's a very manipulative guy to everyone around
It almost
him.
feels like she's way too smart to be in that position, but she's just somehow...
Yeah, you can tell she's lonely, though.
She's very lonely.
Yeah.
When she's like, "Tell me you love me," and I'm just like, "Oh,
She
God.
wants to be loved.
Jesus." Like, yeah.
Anybody.
She's the best part of the movie, in my opinion. One of the
Yeah.
best parts. Like, that her
That whole-
character...
Scene just reveals who they are.
Yeah, and she's almost like, as I mentioned earlier, like a knockoff Barbra Streisand. Like her,
I don't see the resemblance, but
she reminds me of Barbra Streisand,
Okay.
except her nose is much smaller and her face is, I think, a little prettier. She just carries herself so defeated, and like you could see the stars in her face and like her skin. By the way, everyone's skin in 1973 or whenever this was made was really bad.
I think beyond more than that, it's the way it's shot.
The way it's shot, lots of greens,
Yeah,
You
I mean,
know,
lots of shadows, lots of hard shadows, sort of
blacks,
neo-noir.
blacks, yeah.
I mean, they weren't trying to be. I mean, you can see back at me like during that same time period, there was movies where the people looked beautiful. Like, they were beautifully lit with perfect makeup.
That is true. Yeah, they were.
It's just I think it's
the
part
way
of
it's shot. Yeah.
Elaine May's approach to this story, and beyond that, her
Yeah.
direction is striving to be invisible.
Some scenes that stick out in terms of like cinematography that were just you looking at it and you're like, "Oh man, this looks great." The sex scene, obviously, the bar scene, staring at the clock, and then that final scene, dusk in the morning.
Sun's coming up,
you
yeah.
know, him and his wife are talking, and Peter Falk. They have that intimate moment, him and his wife, where he goes like, "Do you like when I talk about my childhood stories?" And it feels like they're almost connected, like they're almost reconnecting in some way, because their relationship is very like, you can feel the love there,
Mm-hmm.
and you can feel like Peter Falk is willing to give up Nicky to hold on to that type of life with his like wife and children.
Well, I envy him. Wish I'd known your father.
You wouldn't like them. He was a very sour man, and he didn't like any of the women in the family. But he liked Nick.
I don't know. I think just Cassavetes in general. I think when Cassavetes is on the run from Peter Falk and Ned Beatty, and Ned Beatty and Peter Falk like run down a character, that's not Cassavetes. They're like just looking everywhere for him.
We had some random guy.
Is
that's
that him?
fine,
Is
yeah.
that Beatty's like? Is that him?
They almost run the guy down. He like rolls down
Yeah.
into the street, and they're like, "Oh no, it's not."
It's not
And
him.
it's really fun.
It's like almost like two bad cops,
Yeah.
and they're like trying to find the bad guy. But I don't know. The way they interact in the cars, is that him? No. You sure that's not him? You know, it's just nobody's sure of anything. It's almost like a confederacy of dunces. I don't know. It's just like they're supposed to be these menacing characters, but they're not. Like, I don't know. The humor in it's very like revealing.
All right, Nick. Any final thoughts? Anything on your mind about anything else in the world?
Good
going on?
time. This movie brings back Good Time for me, and
Yeah.
After Hours. But Good Time, I can see the Safdie brothers. I can see why they love this movie, because it feels like Good Time is pretty much the basis. Like Mikey and Nicky is the basis of Good Time, that brother relationship.
Yeah.
You know, going into the
Also,
night.
a lot of their movies, Daddy Long Legs,
Yeah.
heaven knows what, even Cut Gems. That very gritty New York feel,
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah. I almost wanted to see more of this movie, but I like the way it ends too.
Yeah.
It's very 70s the way it ends. It's just like, let me in!
I'm
And then-
sick. I'm sick.
And then it just cuts to credits.
Yeah.
Just like, oh, I guess he
So,
died.
yeah.
I guess. Oh, I always liked that the 70s movies. They're just over. It's
It's the
just-
way it should be.
you're like looking around and you're like, I guess
That's it.
that's it. All right. I don't know what I learned, but I felt something.
So anyway, to sum it up,
Sum it up.
less pretty actors, please.
Less pretty actors, real acting. Don't be afraid to write a story that doesn't have any arcs and doesn't have any,
Yeah, there's like no plot to this movie, really.
No
the
plot.
way that you
Go with the flow.
write it in a screenwriting book.
Yeah.
I didn't like that. I love it. A little bit.
Did she do anything else, Elaine May?
Well, she did a lot of things. Yeah, she was sort of like a script doctor. Before this, she had 2 movies. The Heartbreak Kid.
That's right.
Neil Simon wrote
That's
that.
right. I forgot about that one. Yeah.
Before that, I forgot the name of her first movie, but she did Ishtar. Just didn't turn out so
Yeah.
well, unfortunately. But yeah, she acted. She was on Broadway for a long time. I think she still acts.
Man, she is amazing.
Yeah.
Like in terms of like making a movie like this, it's just it's really cool to see. And I hope people watch this one. I don't know. It feels like I keep thinking like if this was made nowadays, this would probably just like win everything. You know what I mean?
I think the audience for this kind of movie has always been small.
Yeah, a little small. And this would be directed more toward older people. They'd be like, I remember the 70s.
Sort of, yeah. Well, I mean, people just like plot. I
There would be a
guess.
lot of like infighting. People would be like, well, technically the representation of the male population in this is not very adequate. And like,
Yeah.
people would just like blow it up. And
There would be a lot of conversation that really had to do with the movie, but stuff outside of the
Yeah.
movie.
What other movies does this bring to mind? Other than what we
Well,
did?
besides other John Cassavetes movies, Husbands,
Yeah, I was thinking about that. I was thinking about Faces.
Faces,
Yeah, I kept thinking
Shadows.
about Faces. Shadows, so good.
What's that one with Gina Rollins?
Opening Night.
Nervous Breakdown.
A Woman on the Verge.
On the Verge of
Is that what it is?
Yes.
Or A Woman Under the Influence.
Woman Under the Influence, that's
Okay,
right.
yeah.
Peter Falk's also in that one.
Yes. A bulldog.
Yeah.
He's so amazing, that
He's
face.
great. That's what I want. Take your pretty actors.
You almost
You're
had that like
pretty.
James Caan look, almost like James Caan.
Sure.
And
Yeah, he's
he-
sort of like a James Cagney, but like an actual James Cagney.
Man, those guys, they're the men nowadays. There's just no way. Like,
Yeah.
there's just we would never look like that. I don't know.
We're going to in 20 years.
You think so?
These have been some hard
Oh,
times.
jeez. All right. Well, all right. I did. Final thoughts. What do you think?
I love this movie. Perfect. A masterpiece.
Yeah.
Made by a true artist.
Yeah. Check out the Criterion edition of it.
Yeah.
I picked it up and was looking at the cover and I was like, this is what, like the DVD, like the extras and like the commentaries on it. And I'm like, this is what should be in a DVD. The amount of like special features and behind the scenes stuff is amazing for this movie. But but anyway,
Check it out, please.
Yeah,
Even if
check
you
it
don't
out.
Like 70s dark,
yeah.
plotless movie.
If there's any movies
It's
close
worth
to
it.
this, let us know. We'll check them out. We'll review them. Have any recommendations that are similar to Mikey and Nicky? Let us know.
Let us know what you think about pretty actors, their place in cinema,
Yeah.
stuff like that.
And what's the email box? What is it?
It's moviesAreDead. See at the bottom of the screen at gmail.com.
Gmail.com. But yeah,
Gmail.
thank you for joining us for another edition of Movies
are dead.
Dead.